Welcome to my channel. Grab some snacks, a drink, and enjoy. I'm Evan Miller, and until a week ago, I had a life. You know the kind, the one where you wake up, grab a cup of coffee from the nearby cafe, and stumble through the morning commute to your office job. Now, I'm not so sure. The only constant is the hum that never stops. It's like a heartbeat, pulsing through the walls of my apartment, a grim reminder that I'm not entirely alone. At first, I thought it was just my mind playing tricks on me, a side effect of my recent breakup. But the whispers grew louder, more persistent. They didn't just come from the shadows anymore. They echoed in the empty spaces of my apartment. I'd catch snippets of conversations that weren't mine, laughter that didn't belong to any of my neighbors. It was as if the walls had turned into a living organism, breathing in my secrets and exhaling someone else's. The emails started to arrive, first from colleagues, then from friends, all with the same warning: don't trust what you see. But it was the message from my sister that really unnerved me. It was her email address, her name, but the words didn't sound like her. They were stilted, like someone was playing dress-up with her thoughts. I called her, but the line was dead. It was then that I knew something was really wrong. I bought the surveillance gear out of desperation. If I could just see it, maybe I could explain it away. But the footage, it was a lie. The cameras showed an apartment as still as a museum exhibit. While I sat in the middle of a horror movie, the whispers grew to a crescendo. Then nothing. The lights played tricks, flickering like a broken lullaby, leaving me in the dark. And the reflections, they weren't reflections at all. They were twisted versions of myself, grinning back at me from every mirrored surface, taunting me with a reality that felt less and less like my own. The day my friend Mark visited, I thought I'd found a lifeline. His eyes, though, they were empty, like someone had scraped the life out of them. He talked in circles, his voice a monotone drone that didn't match the person I knew. He didn't blink, just stared, repeating the same sentence over and over. "You're okay, Evan. Everything is fine." But it wasn't. And when I looked at the time, hours had passed, swallowed by the void of our conversation. That's when I knew I couldn't trust anyone, not even the ones I'd shared drinks and laughs with. The silence that followed was deafening. The humming grew louder, as if the walls were screaming in a frequency only I could hear. I tried calling out, texting, sending emails, but the void swallowed them whole. The city outside my window was a mirage, a silent film playing on a loop. The streets, the people, the sounds of life, all gone, replaced by a wall of static. I felt like I was the last man on earth, trapped in a nightmare with no escape, with nothing left to lose. I descended into the belly of the beast, the stairwell. It was always quieter there, a place where the whispers couldn't reach. But now, even the stairs seemed to groan with every step as if they were alive, and they didn't want me to leave. I set up my camera, the only weapon I had left, and whispered into the void, "I know you're here." The air grew colder. The shadows thickened, and I could feel the presence of something unseen, watching, waiting. It was time to end this masquerade. I decided to face it, whatever it was. Armed with a flashlight and a determination forged in isolation, I climbed back up to my apartment. The door was open, a silent invitation to the madness within. I stepped inside, the cold metal of the doorknob sending a shiver down my spine. The room spun around me, the hum now a cacophony of whispers that grew louder, closer. My heart hammered in my chest, each beat syncing with the pulse of the light above. My living room looked like a crime scene from a horror movie. Furniture askew, cushions thrown across the floor, and a chilling draft that carried the scent of something long forgotten. I swung the flashlight around, its beam cutting through the darkness like a knife, searching for the source of the whispers that grew into a cacophony of voices. The flickering light reflected in the mirror, but the reflection wasn't mine. It was 100 versions of me, each twisted into a grotesque parody of humanity. I dropped the flashlight, the room plunging into darkness, and stumbled backward, tripping over the debris of my shattered reality. The floorboards creaked under my weight, a macabre symphony playing in the background as I scrambled to my feet. I couldn't escape the feeling that I was being herded, the shadows closing in like a pack of hungry wolves. In the corner of my eye, I caught glimpses of movement, but when I turned to look, there was nothing, just the hum, the whispers, and the unbearable weight of unseen eyes. The door to the bedroom beckoned, a beacon of safety in the chaos, but as I reached for the handle, it slammed shut with a bang that echoed through the apartment. I retreated to the kitchen, my sanctuary, the place where I had felt the most alive, cooking meals that now felt like a lifetime ago. The refrigerator hummed, in response to the chaos outside, a comforting reminder of the mundane. But when I opened it, the light didn't come on, and the emptiness inside was as vast as the void outside. The whispers grew to a crescendo, my name being chanted in 100 different tones, a twisted choir serenading my descent into madness. The pressure mounted, the whispers grew to a scream, and I realized the truth. The entity wasn't just in my apartment, it was in my head. The line between reality and delusion had been obliterated, leaving me in a world where the only certainty was fear. I slammed the fridge door shut, the sound reverberating through the apartment, and took a deep breath. It was time to fight back. I grabbed the nearest chair and hurled it at the mirror, shattering the reflection into 1,000 pieces. The whispers fell silent, and the hum grew faint. In the quiet that followed, I felt a flicker of hope. But as I turned to survey the damage, the chair hovered in midair, the shards of the mirror floating upwards, and the whispers began again, louder, closer, more insistent. The room was alive, the walls pulsing with malevolent energy, and I knew the battle was far from over. The real horror was just beginning. My apartment had become a labyrinth of nightmares, each corner hiding a new terror. The whispers grew to a crescendo, swirling around me like a tornado of shadows and sound. I stumbled into the living room, the furniture rearranging itself as if alive, taunting me with every step. The TV flickered to life, displaying a news report of a city in chaos. The same city outside my window, yet eerily different. People with blank expressions, acting out bizarre rituals in the streets. The room grew colder, the air thicker there. I clutched the kitchen knife I'd grabbed for protection, the metal cold and slick in my hand. The whispers grew clearer, forming words that cut through the din. "You're one of us now," they hissed. The voices of those I had once known, now twisted beyond recognition. I had to get out, find someone who could help me, or at least prove I wasn't losing my mind. But every exit was blocked by a wall of shifting darkness, the doorways to other rooms swallowed by the abyss. The hum grew into a roar, drowning out the whispers, filling my head with a pain that threatened to split it open. I staggered back, dropping the knife, the clatter lost in the cacophony. The walls closed in, the ceiling lowered, and the floor felt like it was dropping away beneath me. I was drowning in the very fabric of my own sanity. But then, a pinprick of light appeared in the darkness, a single point of hope. It grew, expanding into a doorway, a path out of this madness. I didn't know where it led, but I knew I had to take it. I lunged forward, my heart racing, my mind a blur of fear and desperation. As I stepped through, the whispers grew faint, the hum receding like a retreating tide. The door slammed shut behind me, leaving me in a stark, empty room. The silence was deafening. The room was a stark contrast to the chaos of my apartment. White walls, a single chair in the center, and a table with a phone. The phone rang, piercing the quiet, and I stumbled towards it, grasping the receiver with trembling hands. "Hello," I croaked, my voice a hoarse whisper. The line was clear, no static, no whispers, just the faint sound of someone breathing on the other end. "Evan," a voice said, calm and soothing. "It's time to come home." But was it a rescue or a trap? With no other choice, I took a deep breath and whispered, "Okay." As I hung up, the walls of the room began to melt away, revealing the stairwell, my mind's last bastion of reality. The shadows grew, reaching for me, and I took a tentative step forward, into the unknown. The stairs groaned as I descended, each step echoing like a funeral march. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting jagged shadows that danced around me like ghosts. I could feel eyes watching from the landings, the whispers growing closer with every descent. The air grew thick, tasting of dust and decay, and I stumbled down the last flight, the exit door looming like a beacon of hope. But when I reached for the handle, it was ice cold, unyielding. The whispers grew to a scream and the door began to shake as if something was trying to break in. Panic set in. I was trapped in a prison of my own making, the walls closing in, the whispers now a cacophony of screams. The stairwell's lights flickered faster, strobing in time with my racing heart. I had to find a way out. I spotted a window, boarded up and forgotten, and with a surge of adrenaline, I pried the boards loose. The night air rushed in, bringing with it the distant wails of sirens and the muffled cries of the city's lost souls. The whispers grew quieter, the shadows retreating from the light. I squeezed through the window, my heart pounding in my chest, and tumbled onto the rooftop. The city spread out before me, a sea of lights that seemed so far away. The hum was gone, replaced by the distant murmur of the city that never sleeps. But the whispers weren't entirely silent. They echoed faintly, carried on the wind, a chilling reminder that I wasn't free. I looked back at the window, now a gaping maw in the side of the building, the darkness within beckoning me back. I knew that this wasn't over. The battle for my sanity had just begun, and as I stumbled away from the building, the whispers grew louder, following me into the night, promising that the horrors of my apartment were just the start of something much, much worse. The rooftop was a maze of ventilation ducts and satellite dishes, a silent witness to the chaos below. I stumbled over loose gravel, the wind biting at my skin, carrying the scent of rain. The storm clouds gathered overhead, the air charged with electricity. The whispers grew clearer, more personal, speaking in the voices of my past, my fears given form. They spoke of failure and loneliness, of a life wasted in the pursuit of a love that never truly existed. I clutched the phone in my pocket, the only link to the world I once knew, the one that had promised to take me home. The rain began to fall, a cold embrace that soothed my fevered brow. The whispers grew fainter, the shadows retreating in the face of the storm. I had to find a way to the ground, to escape this place of madness. The fire escape rattled beneath my trembling hands as I descended, each rung a step closer to reality, or so I hoped. The whispers grew louder as I reached the street, the shadows coalescing into the figures of my past, their faces twisted with malice. They whispered my name, a chorus of torment that followed me through the alleyways, their forms flickering in the dim streetlights like ghosts in a silent film. The cafe, a beacon of familiarity in this twisted world, was closed, the chairs up on the tables. The neon sign above it flickered erratically, casting jagged shadows on the wet pavement. I stumbled inside, the bell chiming mournfully in the empty space. The whispers grew louder, now a cacophony of voices, all speaking at once, telling me I was never going to escape. The walls warped and bent, the floor rising and falling like a storm-tossed ship. I had to find the source of this madness, to confront it before it consumed me entirely. With a shaking hand, I picked up the phone and dialed the only number I knew would lead me to the truth. As it rang, the whispers grew to a fever pitch, and I realized that the voice on the other end of the line was the very thing I feared most. It was the voice of the one who had sent me on this hellish journey, the voice that had orchestrated my descent into the abyss. And, as the line connected, the whispers grew silent, waiting for the final act to unfold. The voice was calm, almost comforting, a stark contrast to the chaos that surrounded me. "Evan," it said, "I've been waiting for you." It was Mark, my friend, but it wasn't his voice. It was the voice of the entity that had invaded my mind, my apartment, my life. "You're not real," I whispered, but the words held no conviction. "Oh, but I am," the voice replied, "and I'm everywhere." The walls of the cafe began to bleed, the whispers now a symphony of screams that filled the air. The floor gave way beneath me, and I fell into darkness, the world around me fading to black. When I woke, I was in my apartment again, the whispers a distant echo in my mind. But something was different. The furniture was arranged as if by a meticulous artist, each piece in perfect symmetry. The air was still, the hum a faint memory. The silence was almost peaceful, but it was a peace that made my skin crawl. I knew I wasn't alone. As I sat up, the shadows grew longer, reaching out to me like tendrils of black smoke. They whispered sweet nothings, promises of a reality where I could be whole again if only I would submit to their will. The walls began to breathe, the floor undulating like the surface of a disturbed pond. I stumbled through the apartment, searching for the source of the whispers, the truth behind the madness. But every room was the same, empty, sterile, a mockery of the home I once knew. And then I saw it, the email from my sister, still glowing on my laptop screen. It had changed, the words now a garbled mess of symbols and numbers that danced before my eyes. The whispers grew louder, the room spinning around me as the message coalesced into a single, terrifying command. "Find us." The screen went dark, leaving me in the cold embrace of the shadows. The whispers grew to a roar, the apartment transforming into a living, breathing monstrosity that seemed to close in on me from all sides. The entity had a plan, and it was time for me to play my part. With a deep breath, I stepped into the heart of the darkness, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The hallway stretched on forever, the flickering lights above, casting monstrous shadows on the walls. The floor felt spongy underfoot, as if I was walking on a grave. Each step was a battle against the fear that threatened to paralyze me. The whispers a constant drone that grew louder with every inch I covered. At the end of the hall, the door to my sister's old bedroom loomed, untouched since she'd moved out years ago. It creaked open on its own, revealing a space that was no longer familiar. The room was filled with a thick fog, the only light coming from a single candle flickering on the dresser. I stepped inside, the whispers now a cacophony of screams that pierced my skull. The air grew colder, the candle's flame dancing in the draft, and I knew she was here, the entity, waiting for me. The whispers grew to a crescendo, and the room began to pulse with an otherworldly energy. I stumbled forward, my eyes straining to pierce the fog, searching for a sign of what I was supposed to do. And then, in the center of the room, a figure took shape, a twisted version of my sister, her eyes empty sockets, her mouth a gaping maw of darkness. She reached out to me, her arms elongating like spider legs, and I knew this was the moment of truth. I had to face the fear that had consumed me, the delusion that had torn apart my reality. I took a step back, the knife clutched tightly in my hand, and whispered the only words that seemed to matter. "I'm not afraid of you." The figure recoiled, the whispers fading to a whimper, the room stilled, the fog dissipating to reveal the truth. There was nothing there, just an empty room, a forgotten piece of my past. I had faced the darkness, and it had no power over me, but as I turned to leave, the floor gave way, and I plummeted into a pit of blackness. The whispers grew louder, a symphony of despair that filled the void around me. I was falling into the abyss of my own mind, and there was no escape. But then, a hand reached out, a glimmer of light in the darkness. It was Mark, his eyes clear, his grip firm. "You're not alone," he said, and together we began to climb out of the abyss, back towards the flickering light of reality. The whispers grew faint, the walls of my apartment receding into the shadows. I knew the battle wasn't over, but for now, I had regained a semblance of control. The nightmare had only just begun, but I was ready to fight. The rain had stopped, the city's pulse returning to its usual rhythm. We stumbled through the streets, the whispers a distant echo. Mark led the way, his eyes darting from side to side as if searching for something unseen. "We have to find the others," he said, his voice tight with urgency. "They're trapped, just like you were." The fog lifted, and the cafe came into view, its neon sign a beacon of hope in the night. We hurried inside, the whispers swirling around us like a tornado of despair. The chairs were back in their places, the floor no longer a sea of shifting shadows. The barista looked up, a flicker of recognition in her eyes, and then she was gone, replaced by a twisted version of herself, her smile a grotesque parody of human emotion. We ran, the whispers growing louder, the shadows stretching out to grab us. The cafe transformed around us, the walls closing in, the floor opening up to reveal the endless void beneath. "We can't stay here," Mark shouted, his voice barely audible over the din. We burst through the back door, into an alley that was no longer the one we had known. The buildings loomed tall, the windows like the eyes of a giant watching our every move. The whispers grew to a fever pitch, the shadows coalescing into a swarm of darkness that pursued us. We ran, our hearts pounding in our chests, the line between sanity and madness blurring with every step. We emerged into a city that was both familiar and alien. The streets twisted into a labyrinth of despair. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of lost souls calling out for salvation. We had to find the others, those who had been taken by the entity. We had to save them, to show them the light. The rain began to fall again, a cold embrace that seemed to cleanse the air of the whispers. We stumbled on, our resolve unbroken, our hearts beating in time with the pulse of the city. The whispers grew faint, the shadows retreating. We had found our purpose in this hellish landscape, to fight the darkness and bring light to those lost in the delirium. And as we disappeared into the night, the whispers grew quiet, the shadows shrinking away from our determination. The battle was far from over, but we had taken the first step in reclaiming our reality. The whispers grew faint, the shadows retreating as we ventured deeper into the city. We stumbled upon a park, the swings swaying in the breeze like a mournful dance. The playground equipment twisted into grotesque shapes, the whispers of children's laughter now a haunting melody. We knew we were getting closer, that the others were here, trapped in the entity's web. The rain fell harder, each droplet a tear shed for the innocence we had lost. But we pushed on, driven by the hope of redemption, the desire to save those we had left behind. The whispers grew clearer, the shadows coalescing into forms that whispered our names. They were friends, family, lost loves, specters of our past, reaching out to us from the abyss. We had to be strong, to resist their siren call. We had to remember that this was not our world, not our reality. It was a prison of our own making, a prison we had to escape. We pressed on, the rain washing away the lies that had been etched into our minds. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, but we were ready. We had faced the darkness within ourselves and had come out stronger. As we approached the heart of the city, the whispers grew to a deafening roar, the shadows swirling around us like a tornado of despair. But we had a weapon now, our unity, our belief in the truth. We held each other tight, our hearts beating as one. The whispers grew fainter, the shadows retreating from our light. And there, in the center of the chaos, we found them, our friends, our family. Their eyes filled with terror. They were lost, adrift in a sea of madness, but we had come to save them, to show them the way out. The whispers grew quiet, the shadows retreating. We had found our mission, our reason to fight. The battle was not over, but we had become an army of the unseen, ready to face the entity that had stolen our lives. The storm raged on, but we stood firm, our light shining in the darkness, ready to face whatever lay ahead. We gathered the lost souls, leading them through the streets that had become a twisted mirror of our fears. Each step was a battle, the whispers trying to pull us back into the abyss, but we had found our strength in each other, and we pushed forward, the rain washing away the remnants of our doubt. The city began to change, the buildings shifting and morphing before our eyes, a testament to the power of the entity that had taken hold of us. Yet we did not waver. Our determination unshaken, we had to find the source, to pull it from the depths of our minds and cast it out into the light. The whispers grew to a crescendo as we approached a towering skyscraper, its windows reflecting the flickering lights of the city below. This was the entity's lair, the heart of the nightmare that had become our reality. The doors to the building swung open, revealing an elevator that waited, its lights flickering like a beckoning finger. We stepped inside. The whispers now a symphony of fear that echoed in the enclosed space. The button for the top floor glowed red, a beacon of terror that we had to face. With a deep breath, we pressed it, the elevator lurching into motion. The ride was an eternity, the whispers filling our ears, trying to break us. But we had come too far, suffered too much, to let fear win. We held on to each other, our eyes locked, our hearts beating in unison. The elevator dinged, the doors sliding open to reveal a room that was both finite and infinite. The whispers grew silent, the shadows retreating into the corners, and there it was, the entity, a monolith of darkness that filled the space. It spoke in 100 voices, each one a whisper from our past, a promise of pain and regret. But we were not alone. We had each other, and we had the truth. With a roar of defiance, we charged into the room, our lights shining like swords that sliced through the darkness. The entity recoiled, the whispers growing fainter as we approached. It had no power over us now, no hold on our minds. We had seen through the delusion, had faced our fears and come out stronger. The whispers grew faint, the shadows retreating into the corners, and the room began to dissolve around us. The entity's screams echoed through the space, a desperate cry of rage and defeat. We had won. The nightmare was over.